Okay, I know that this morning this was supposed to be a live meeting. However, I need to attend a meeting with Seminole County Public Schools this morning at the same time we're supposed to be having this lesson. So instead, I am going to video the lesson, and if we have questions about the lesson, we can talk about it after our live religion lesson this afternoon. Okay, before we get into time to the half hour, I just want to review one more time time to the hour and what we've learned so far. Okay, we've learned that this is the face of the clock. We start with the number 1, go all the way around till we get to the 12. So there's 12 numbers on the face of the clock. This type of a clock is called an analog clock. And on an analog clock, in addition to the numbers from 1 to 12 on the face of the clock, you also see 2 hands. You see the minute hand and you see the hour hand. The minute hand is the longer of the 2 hands, you can see. And what we've learned so far is telling time to the hour. And when we tell time to the hour, the minute hand is always going to touch on the 12, and the hour hand is always going to be pointing to the number of the hour. We have 4 o'clock, we have 6 o'clock, we have 9 o'clock. My minute hand, when I'm telling time to the hour, is always pointing to the 12. The hour hand is always pointing to the hour that the clock is telling the time for. All right, so you notice that an analog clock is a circle, okay? And this is where we get into our time to the half hour today. When you think of a circle, okay, there's a circle. Whoop, I'll put it up here. Here's a circle, all right? When I fold that circle, now that I folded it, has 2 equal parts, okay? Each of those equal parts is called a half, all right? And when I take my circle and I shade in one of those equal parts, okay? 1/2 of my circle is shaded in, and 1/2 of my circle is not, okay? That's kind of, I'm trying to demonstrate that when we tell time to the half hour, we're moving halfway around the clock. You remember when we introduced time to the hour, we talked about how the minute hand travels around the clock in 60 minutes, okay? So halfway between the 12 and the 6 is we're telling time to the half hour. When that minute hand moves halfway around the clock, okay, half of 60 is 30. So when we tell time to the half hour, we say blank 30, right? Now, another thing that I want to put in, you'll remember that when we first talked about clocks, we said that the lines between, the little black lines between the numbers on an analog clock, there were 5 of them. And each of them represents 1 minute. So I'm going to put some 5 connecting cubes between each number, okay, to remind us that there are 5 minutes between each of our numbers, okay? And we've learned to count by 5, so let's start. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, okay? So going around the clock, telling time to the hour, each of these represents 5 minutes, okay? So it takes 60 minutes to get around the whole clock. So if I'm only going halfway around the clock from 12 to 6, how many minutes is that? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay? So that's why we say half past or blank 30. Now, here's the tricky thing, right? And it's probably easier to model to begin with on this clock, all right? My clock now says 8 o'clock, and I know that because the minute hand is on the 12 and the hour hand is on the 8, all right? Now, my minute hand is going to start traveling around the clock. And I want you to watch what happens to that hour hand as I slowly move around the clock, halfway around the clock. The minute hand now is on the 6. So that tells me that I am telling time to the half hour. But look what happened to that hour hand. When we started, that hour hand was on the 8. Now it is halfway between the 8 and the next number. Okay, so I can say that it is half past 8 or 8:30. All right, so let's look at that again. Here it is, 8 o'clock, and I know that it's 8 o'clock because my minute hand is on the 12, and my hour hand is pointing directly to the hour that it is. As that minute hand makes its way around the clock, the minute hand is moving, but ever so slowly, so is the hour hand. I think my arm was in the way, so let's try that again because I really want you to see this. Okay, the minute hand is moving slowly around the clock, but that hour hand is also moving. So when I get halfway around the clock, where my minute hand is no longer on the 12, now it's on the 6, my hour hand has also moved. Okay, it's moved from the hour that it was, 8 o'clock, halfway between the hour that it's going to be. So it moved halfway between itself and the next number. So my clock now says 8:30. All right, so let's look at that on our class clock. All right, again, if I'm telling time to the hour, my minute hand is going to be on the 12. But if I'm telling time to the half hour, my minute hand is going to be on the 6. And if I want my clock to say 3:30, then my hour hand is going to be halfway between the 3 and the hour that it's going to be, or the next number, 4. All right? Now, if I want, let's go back. It is, let's say it is 7 o'clock, and I know I'm telling time to the hour because my minute hand is on the 12 and my hour hand is on the 7. So it is 7 o'clock. But as my minute hand moves around the clock, my hour hand has moved halfway between the 7 and the next number. So my clock now says 7:30. What I noticed in quite a few of the work samples that were sent to me last night is that people were putting the hour hand directly on the hour, and that is not what we want to do because, again, with this clock, you saw, okay, here's our hour, 8 o'clock. But as my minute hand moved around the clock, okay, now my minute hand is on the 6. So it is halfway around the clock. So it's half past or blank 30. My hour hand has moved from the 8. It is halfway between the 8 and the next number or the next hour. So that hour hand, when I am telling time to the half hour, does not sit directly on the hour that it was because it's half way around the clock to the next hour. So let's take our spinner, because you're going to work on this at home. Everybody has a spinner at home, and you're going to put your spinner together like we've talked before, and you're going to spin. All right, now I came up at 6 o'clock. So when I tell time to the hour, that hour hand is going to, I'm sorry, that minute hand is going to be on the 12, and my hour hand will be on the hour, okay, the number of the hour. So now my clock says 6 o'clock. But if I spin again and I get 5:30, that means when I'm telling time to the half hour, that minute hand is going to be on the 6. And since it's 5:30, my hour hand is going to be halfway between the 5 and the next number, which is 6. So that is what 5:30 looks like. 5:30 does not look like this. 5:30 is the minute hand on the 6. And because the hour hand has the minute hand has traveled halfway around the clock, my hour hand is halfway between the 5 and the next number. Okay, so let's try another one. 3:30. All right, let's start at 3 o'clock so everybody understands where you would be putting the hands on the clock. If it was 3 o'clock, I spun till 3:30. So that means that my minute hand went halfway around the clock, and my hour hand went halfway between the 3 and the next number, which is 4. So that is what 3:30 should look like on my clock. All right, we'll try another one. All right, we got 3:30 again. Let's try 11:30. And so that you understand what Mrs. Moran is saying, I'm going to make it say 11 o'clock first. Okay, and I know I'm telling time to the hour because that minute hand is on the 12. I spun 11:30. So watch what happens as the minute hand travels around halfway around the clock. Now I'm telling time to the half hour, and that hour hand is halfway between the 11 and the next number. My clock says 11:30 or half past 11. All right, let's try one more. And this time, my clock says 12:30. So again, I want to model for you. We're going to start at 12 o'clock, okay? And my minute hand, because I'm telling time to the half hour, is moving halfway around the clock. It's now on the 6, so I know I'm telling time to the half hour. Look where that hour hand went. It went halfway between the 12 and the next number. So my clock says 12:30. It's very important to remember that when I'm telling time to the half hour, that minute hand, that long hand is on the 6, okay? And my hour hand is always going to be halfway between the hour that it was and the next hour. Okay, it's not going to sit directly on the number. This is not 12:30 because my minute hand has traveled halfway around the clock. My hour hand, therefore, has traveled, halfway between the hour that it was and the next hour. All right. Again, this is a hard concept, first grade. This is a hard concept. Okay. It's a hard concept when we're here in the classroom together. So I truly understand if you might be struggling with this at home, and I'm going to try to do my best to help you out. Go ahead. Hopefully mom and dad can help you set up some type of a little clock like this where you see the fact that we have 5 minutes between each number, and that's how half past gets us to be 30 minutes or half past an hour. Again, you're going to practice with your spinners, but if you're having difficulty, please have mom or dad dojo me, and we'll see if we can't find a time for us to just sit and work on it together. It is a hard concept, but the more we do it and the more we practice it, the better we will get at it. And again, I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to do this with you live today, but duty calls as assistant principal, and I do need to attend this meeting for what we're going to be doing with proportionate funds for the school for next year. So give it a try. Do your best. I know that you have been working so hard, and I know that you will give this your best effort. Please, please, please know, again, I'm going to remind you, this is a difficult skill. It's a difficult skill when we're here in the classroom together. So be patient with yourself. Just keep trying. And I know by the time we get to the end of the school year, all of us will be experts at telling time to the half hour. Okay? Have a great day. And I'll see you this afternoon at religion time.